Today, we're going to journey back in time, and I mean way back. We're cracking open one of humanity's most ancient collections of wisdom, the Pali Canon, to explore this incredible story about the search for truth. And get this, it's a story that happened long before the Buddha that most of us know.
So our whole story really hangs on this one big question. Just imagine for a second that you're a prince. You have everything you could ever dream of, and you're protected from every single hardship. How in the world do you break free from a perfect life like that to see things as they really are? Well, let's find out.
You see, the first thing to get is that the story of a Buddha, an awakened one, isn't some one-time thing. These ancient texts talk about a whole lineage of them, stretching back across these huge cycles of time they called kappas. We're talking eons, so vast it's hard to even imagine. We're going all the way back 91 of these kappas to meet a Buddha named Vipassī.
Okay, so our story kicks off where a lot of great stories do, with a prince living what seems to be a perfect life. A life that was literally engineered from the ground up to be completely free of any kind of pain or suffering.
This was Prince Vipassī, son of King Banduma. And when I say his life was perfect, I mean it. He didn't have one palace. He had three, one for each season of the year. His whole life was just this constant flow of music, pleasure, and entertainment. His father made absolutely sure he never saw anything unpleasant, anything that might even hint at the harsh realities of the world. The goal? To raise a perfect king, completely ignorant of what life was really like. But here's the thing about reality. You can't build walls high enough to keep it out forever. One day, the prince decides he wants to go to the park, and on that one trip, everything he thought he knew about the world was about to come crashing down. While he was on the road, he saw something that just stopped him in his tracks. Something he'd never seen before in his entire life. It was a man, bent over, frail, leaning on a cane, all his strength just gone. The prince turns to his charioteer and asks, "What happened to that man? Why does he look so different from everyone else?" And the charioteer tells him, he was what is called aged.
On another trip out, he saw his second sight. This time, it was a person who was seriously ill, suffering, in pain. Again, totally confused, he asked his charioteer, "What's wrong with that person?" And the answer came back, "He is what is called sick."
But the third sight, this one was the most jarring of all. He saw a funeral procession, people crying, following a body being carried away. For the very first time in his life, Prince Vipassī came face to face with death. The charioteer had to explain to him that this is what happens to everyone, no matter if you're a king or a prince.
And then, finally, he saw a fourth person. And this one was totally different. After all the suffering he just witnessed, this person was the very picture of calm and peace. The charioteer explained, that is a renunciant, someone who has gone forth to find an answer to all this suffering. And for the prince, this wasn't another problem. It was the first sign of a solution.
When he got back to the palace, the prince was just shattered. The whole illusion was broken. He was completely overcome by this thought, shame on birth. He realized that the problem starts the moment you're born, because from that point on, you're subject to all of it, getting old, getting sick, and eventually dying. And he knew deep down that this applied to him too. His perfect world was a complete lie.
He just couldn't go back to his old life. He couldn't pretend anymore. He knew he had to find a way out, an escape from this universal cycle of suffering. And so, he decided to do something absolutely radical.
He performed this act known as the going forth. He literally took a sword, cut off his own hair, swapped his luxurious royal clothes for simple robes, and just walked out of the palace gates. He left it all behind, his kingdom, his family, his entire future as a king, to become a homeless wanderer, all in search of the ultimate truth.
So Vipassī dedicated himself completely to meditation. But he wasn't just trying to find some inner peace. He was conducting a deep, almost forensic investigation into how suffering actually works. He wanted to reverse engineer the whole process, to understand it from the ground up.
He started his investigation with the very thing that turned his world upside down, aging and death, or Jarama Marana. He asked the very simple, almost scientific question, what's the direct cause of this? What has to be present for aging and death to even happen?
And through this intense focus, the insight arose. He saw it wasn't just one thing. It was a chain reaction. It all starts with the basics. Consciousness, vijnana, and our mind and body, nama-rupa, they depend on each other. That basic experience of being me gives rise to what's called tanha, or craving. You know that constant thirst for things to be pleasant, and that push away from anything unpleasant? That's it. From craving comes upadana, or clinging. We get attached to people, to ideas, to our sense of self. This clinging creates this powerful forward momentum called bhava, or becoming, the drive to exist. And what does that drive lead to? Jati, birth, a new existence. And once there is birth, the final link is locked in, jara marana, aging and death. He had found it, a chain of cause and effect, where every single link depended on the one before it.
Now you might think that's a depressing discovery, but it was the exact opposite. It was a roadmap to freedom. Because if suffering is just a chain reaction, what happens if you break a link? He saw the weak point wasn't at the end, it was right there in the middle. Look at this. If you can put an end to that deep-seated craving, tanha, then clinging has no fuel, it just stops. And without clinging, that powerful drive for becoming fades. Without that momentum, there's no more birth into a state of suffering. And if there's no birth, the whole messy business of aging, sickness, and death just unravels. He'd done it. He'd found the way out. He had become a Buddha.
So, finding the answer was one thing, but now he faced a brand new problem. Should he, or could he, even try to teach this to other people?
He actually hesitated. He thought to himself, this truth I found, it's really deep, it's subtle, and it goes completely against what most people want. People are just caught up in pleasure. They're not going to understand this. If I try to teach, it's just going to be exhausting for me. For a moment, his mind really inclined towards just keeping it to himself.
But right at that moment, the story says a divine being, a great Brahma, saw the Buddha's hesitation and was totally alarmed. He appeared right in front of Vipassī Buddha and pleaded, "Lord, please teach the Dhamma. The world is getting lost. There are people out there who are ready, people with just a little dust in their eyes. They will understand the truth."
Moved by this plea and by his own deep compassion, the Buddha looked out over the world with his enlightened vision, and he saw that the Brahma was right. He saw people like lotuses in a pond. Some were still deep down in the mud, some were rising up towards the surface, and some were right at the top, just ready to bloom in the sun. And with that, he made his decision, declaring, "Open for them are the doors to the deathless. Let those with ears to hear release their faith and listen."
This ancient story is so much more than just a myth. It's like a diagnostic manual for the human condition. It tells us our struggles aren't just random bad luck, but part of a predictable chain of cause and effect, a chain that can be broken. And that really leaves us with a question for ourselves. What are the links in our own chains of stress and unhappiness? And which single link, if we really chose to let it go, might just set us free?